So I need to make an apology before getting into this review. If you saw a promo I posted on YouTube some weeks ago, you heard me say that one movie I'd be reviewing this summer was Punks. An absolutely insane movie starring Henry Winkler, Randy Quaid, and a young Jessica Alba about a group of kids that start a vigilante hacker gang out to thwart a corrupt tech CEO. However, upon researching the film, I came to realize that one technically isn't recognized as a Disney Channel original movie. It's not even listed as a Disney Channel premiere movie, which is the category that preceded the DCOMs. With that and just how absolutely nuts that movie is, it's getting moved to a TV trash review. Don't worry, you'll see it soon enough. Fortunately, there is another Disney Channel original movie that I actually forgot about only until recently that is perfect to fill in. Though I should say movies plural. Before Descendants, before High School Musical, the one Disney Channel movie the mouse tried to promote the H-E double hockey sticks out of was Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century. I am not exaggerating when I say this movie was everywhere. You tuned into the Disney Channel at the end of the 20th century, you were bombarded with this thing all the time. And of course, like many more that would follow it, they looked to milk the program for all it's worth by giving it a sequel. So we might as well conclude the summer by going ahead and taking on both at once. What? There was a third movie? Crap! Okay, so because this one video is now going to cover 3 movies, these reviews will be much more summarized than usual, so it won't drag on forever. So let's get started with Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century. We are introduced to our title character Zenon, played by future General Hospital star Kirsten Storms. Yeah, I think she also had some bit role on Kim Possible before that. Zenon is your typical teenage girl who just happens to live on a space station in the future. Other than that, she may as well be every teen girl from every 90s movie and TV show you've ever seen. She's always late for school, and she just loves getting into trouble with her bestie, who, yes, is played by Raven-Symoné. This is much to the chagrin of the space station commander, who, yes, is played by Earl the Dinosaur himself, Stuart Pankin. As Zenon is flipping out because this week's bestest band ever, Microbe, is coming to the space station, the commander is even more uptight than usual because the CEO of the company that technically owns the space station will also be dropping by at a time when the station is in desperate need of restoration because everything seems to be falling apart. Oh, trust me, people, the less than subtle jabs at privately owned infrastructure are just beginning. Zenon definitely doesn't want the place shut down because life in space is all she's ever known, and she's heard pretty bad things about life on Earth.
Everything down there is motivated by money.
Everything down there is motivated by self-defense. You gotta watch out for germs, speeding trucks, earthquakes, madmen.
Is this more not subtle jokes about suburbanites fearing urban living? Nah, they wouldn't dare. So Zenon has to be on her best behavior until the CEO assures the station of more funding, but she suspects the CEO and his nerd lackey are up to something. So even though the CEO does agree to provide more funding to the station, when she gets caught while following the lackey, everyone blames her and doesn't believe her suspicions, and this leads to her parents grounding her literally, forcing her to leave the station and go live on Earth with her aunt. Go ahead with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air jokes here. There's a lot of second act filler about Zenon struggling to live on Earth, but at the same time getting a crush on this one boy while having to deal with this bratty other girl. It's actually real tedious, so I'm gonna skip ahead to the third act. Sure enough, she discovers the CEO did in fact upload a virus that will destroy the station and kill millions of people so he can collect the insurance money. This was the plot of a Disney Channel movie, people. Quite a bit darker than I can be a star athlete and musical performer together. This convinces Zenon to convince the boy band to let her tag along on their ship to the space station, but the CEO and the lackey sneak themselves on board as well. Let me reiterate this. The CEO is supposedly certain his plan can't fail, and then he sneaks himself onto the station with Zenon to try and stop her, without considering if he does stop her, he's going to die with everyone else. How can anyone so incompetent end up in charge of a major company? You know what? I'm going to move on now. Sure enough, because Zenon is actually a lot smarter than she lets on, she and her friends are able to delete the virus and save the station at the very last second, exposing the CEO in the process, and also exposing the commander and her own parents for being the douchebags that they are. And the movie ends on a musical number by another band that Disney was clearly hoping would make the big time, but would not reach Hannah Montana levels. So with that, let's move on to Zenon the Zequel.
What kind of stupid name is that?
We are automatically told that ever since Zenon saved, well, everybody, she has been milking it for all it's worth and making everyone else suck up to her, including the commander. Good for her! By the way, while Stuart Pankin is back as the commander, Raven Simone got replaced by some whole new girl playing the bestie. I was originally going to make a Terrence Howard joke, but it's actually a lot closer to Robin Williams, as we'll see later. At any rate, given that Raven would have her own Disney show and movie series by 2003, I'd say it was no sweat for her. Sadly, it takes all of 5 minutes in this movie for Zenon to get back on the commander's bad side when she kind of flushes his office out into space. But at least all this time she's made to do is work in the patrol lab, searching for alien life signs with this nutcase. Oh, and she's also freaking out because the frontman for the boy band Microbe has disappeared ever since that big concert. Wait, that band's still a thing? I was sure they'd be passé a month after the first movie ended. Meanwhile, it turns out the US military has taken possession of the space station since evil CEO's company went under, and of course, they're sending someone up there on the suspicion that the station is deteriorating even further. I will say, this is the best argument for giving the first movie a sequel, since it was kinda glossed over as to how the station was going to survive, with the guy owning the whole operation going to prison and all. This introduces us to General Up-Your-Butt, who has a very important assignment for Zenon. Taking care of his daughter, whose clear purpose is to get on Zenon's nerves. And I do chuckle at how in these movies, it's Kirsten Storm's character being bullied by the Libbies of the story, so she could clearly learn how to play Bonnie Rockwaller. Eventually, we get to the main conflict, where Zenon discovers a signal in space that she is certain was a transmission from some other life form. Yes, we finally have aliens in a movie about outer space. But guess what? No one believes her! Not even her own damn parents, because they actually learned nothing from the previous movie. My good night, how could any people be so brain-dead thick that they still refuse to accept and consider things might not be what they seem? And I'm just gonna stop this right now before we go down that modern-day rabbit hole. I do chuckle at how pouty Zenon gets when the general bans her from the patrol lab when working there had previously been a punishment. What isn't cool is the general is also ordering whole sections of the station to be broken off and jettisoned under the claim that the station has been out of orbit ever since the sabotage effect. And I'm not even going to try and understand that. This movie wasn't exactly written by Carl Sagan. Zenon finally discovers what took some of us only a couple minutes to deduce. That Zoom sound she was hearing being broadcast? It's the lyrics to the #1 hit of her beloved band that we heard back in the first movie. Man, who imagined we'd get a callback like that? Basically, Zenon's plan to both prove the aliens exist and stop the general from tearing the whole place down is to return to Earth and find her old aunt to try and find out where the microbe frontman ran off to so she can bring him back to the station. And yeah, the general's daughter secretly tagged along because of course she did. Sure enough, they found out the aliens actually sent them a map in order to meet up with them, but they also find out the general had given up on the space station long ago and has just been slowly shutting down the whole operation piece by piece. Geez, even in the future they just want to end NASA. So they have to give the aunt to convince the commander to give them a shuttle because the commander is in love with the aunt, and I have to admit, it does lead to this one line that I just absolutely love.
Still, Edward, you have to admit that she has this uncanny ability to be right about these things.
To sum this plot up, Zenon and her friends get lost in space, but are rescued and returned home to the station by the aliens, who then also proceed to completely repair the station and allow Zenon to have probably another 5 more years of clout to throw around with the commander, and especially now the US military. Cue the Disney tween pop song to close this movie out on! So now let's finish things up with Zenon Z3, because that was all the rage back then. We open here with Zenon trying to get her pilot's license because of course she's 16 now. But no, this one doesn't end up like SpongeBob, because even as space itself seems to be sabotaging her, she proves herself to be just as much of a savant with a Jetson space car as anything else.
You took us to Earth?
Isn't it lunarious? We fished our wish.
How do you manage it, Zenon?
I guess it's just what I do, sir. Beta Omega.
Oh, and in this one, Raven does get brought back like Robin Williams in The King of Thieves, albeit for a couple of brief cameos. The new bestie here is her cousin, and at least they brought in yet another actor for her to avoid making things even more confusing major. Oh, good night, I'm starting to talk like these people. Yeah, that's the one annoying thing about these movies I've tried to gloss over. The whole futuristic jargon they just keep forcing in.
Cetus Lapidus! How'd it get to be so late?
You're gonna nova. No, wait. Supernova.
It's not like I expected that we'd be together forever. I'm not a moron major, but he dumped me.
You know, at least Kim Possible tried to make her Valley slang look charming. I'm gonna zoom through this one even faster, because the drop in production value alone is making my eyes bleed. I mean, when the only place I've seen worse green screen is on my old videos, that's bad. Here, there's this whole contest about sending kids to a musical festival on the moon, which this activist group is protesting because they think sending people to the moon is wrong, even though I'm pretty sure that's been done before. Meanwhile, the commander and Zenon's aunt are now married, and they're looking to adopt this little girl, who is basically Zenon's Sailor Mini-Moon. So, yeah, the plot is basically the Clover Wave seasons of Sailor Moon, with a less than subtle nod to the X Games that were so mondo popular back then. Anyway, it turns out the guy running the festival is all planning to use it to build a whole community on the moon, and no, I'm not gonna talk about the muskrat, damn it, I just talked about him! And this whole thing has been pissing off the actual goddess of the moon, who has in turn been causing disasters on Earth to try and get people to go away, and that's when the plot loses me. Forget the fact that a movie series based in science fiction has now just up and thrown in mythology, we're supposed to sympathize with someone basically acting as an intergalactic terrorist. So Zenon has to team up with the protesters, and they manage to get everybody off of the moon station and to safety thanks to the efforts of the boy band and their space shuttle bus, and the commander and the ant helping Zenon and her friends literally tow the station off of the moon, and the moon goddess can now have peace and quiet while the developer switches plans to try to build a colony on Mars. No, I'm not saying anything further. This concludeth the series. I should hate these movies. Every fiber of my being says I should hate these movies, yet I just can't bring myself to do so. Maybe it's because part of me likes that pretty much every plot involves arrogant adults refusing to believe kids and being hoisted by their own petard as a result. It does help that Kirsten Storms, despite supposedly playing a futuristic valley girl, isn't really annoying and does provide some charm to the character. And knowing that she'd eventually broadened herself getting into a role far spicier than just being a teen star does show she has some depth as an actress. I'm sure there are a lot of my viewers who are going to consider these movies to be annoying, and hey, let that be your cup of tea. For now, let's head back to the past and try to dig up some other DCOMs that appear to have been lost in space.